This is a day in the life of a childless woman. I wake up at 6 a.m. I remember that I have no kids to take to school, so I take an edible, masturbate, and go back to sleep.
So I came up on this YouTube video by this woman named Chelsea Handler, and in her 1-minute skit, albeit a very cringy one, she talks about all the freedoms that she has since she doesn't have kids. It wasn't well received, and maybe that's because she came off as mocking people who decided that they wanted kids or who had kids. Other than the silliness in the video and the sad attempt at being funny, which I understand didn't land with a lot of people, I think the video was made in the vein of sarcasm, heavily. I didn't really see anything wrong with her video, and she didn't seem to be directly mocking any person for being a parent. While her presentation can come off as being irreverent, it seems to me as though it would only seem so to the people who feel attacked by her claiming she has all this freedom. And yeah, some of the things she probably said was in poor taste, but again, based on what people are saying that do follow her, the whole video was meant to be sarcastic.
Superhuman powers. I teleport myself back home. Then I get ready for a night out with whatever hot guy I met on Raya that morning. I call up a babysitter and tell her that I don't need her since I still don't have kids. Now it's time for a workout, so I hit Mount Everest for a quick climb.
I initially assumed, though, that the primary reason for all the negative reactions to her video would be her inability to display humor effectively and the cringeworthy nature of her skit, because I was like, what am I watching? Is this vegan teacher? But I was honestly surprised at what most of the comments were saying. One commenter said, "Sounds like a very unhappy, unhealthy lady. Sad." Another said, "She forgot to add in the time slot where she has to take her hepatitis meds." Another one said, "Cope more, anyone who makes a video like this is coping." Another mentions, "This is sad beyond comprehension." While others said things along the lines of, "And your day would be the same with kids because they'd be grown by now," as though your whole life before that point isn't filled with being dedicated to the kids. Or, and I've seen a lot of these comments, they forgot to add, "die alone." She clearly was making this to play upon the stereotypes that people often put on those who choose not to have children. I too am childless by choice. Child-free, whatever name they're using for it. Despite the endless pleas from my father to have children and to give him grandkids, I have made up my mind a while back that I don't want kids. Now, what I don't understand is, I'll go to a video with a similar title, albeit a more wholesome video, and I will see the comment section look completely different. There are other videos I've gone to with people talking about what it's like to be a parent and the struggles and why they love being a parent, and every single comment is either praising them for their strength or asking what clothes they're wearing or asking them questions and advice about parenting. However, similar videos for women who choose not to have children, while you will get those who agree and show support, you'll have more than enough comments seeping through by people, about 30% of them, who seem to think that they're entitled to dictate to you what you do with your body.
Who's gonna take care of it?
Isn't that really unnatural?
What's the point of being here?
You'll lead to the extinction of the human race.
That's so selfish.
I honestly find it very disgusting and condescending for, being an adult and a complete stranger trying to tell you what you should and should not do with your body or put in it. There are enough parents who have chosen to have children or just had them by accident, and they are awful. So many kids are being abused and neglected by their parents, even by parents who claim to have wanted them.
Regarding his son who was allegedly unresponsive. Rather than focusing on his son's condition, McLean spent most of the call lamenting that Dakota was allegedly disobedient and how difficult it was to be a parent. At one point during the call, when McLean was instructed to initiate CPR, he could be heard audibly retching and then complained, quote, "It smells real rotten inside of his stomach," end quote.
Upon arrival,
And all that happens is people claim how sad those cases are and how those parents should have never had kids and how some people should never be parents. I agree with the sentiment, but on the other hand, when people go out of their way to choose not to have kids because they either don't want them or they don't feel as though they can handle it, they are vilified and called selfish and labeled as being sad or deserving to die alone. Which is it? I'm married, and both my husband and I agreed that we don't want kids. We're way too introverted, and it's just something that we agreed that we just don't want. Had it been my husband making those comments openly about not wanting to have kids, nobody would be shaming him for that. And I hate to pull that card because nowadays ultra feminists say this about everything. Misogyny this, misogyny that, women. But where this is concerned, it is true, based on what I'm seeing, that a lot of people, especially guys, look down on women who exercise their choice to not have children. Ironically, some of these same dudes also believe that it's unfair for women to use babies as a means to trap men into child support and court rulings, the favor of the woman's decision over the man's, which I wholeheartedly agree with. In such cases, the man often has no say whatsoever whether or not the woman has the child. It's basically, hey, I took all the precautions, but I lied to you about being on the pill. Whoops, you have a kid now. Well, I don't want a child. I'm not ready to be a father. Sucks to be you, paying me child support. What? Men don't like the feeling of not being given a choice whether or not they have to become a father. For many people, especially rape victims, you know what I mean, who were minors, the choice to become a father is completely taken away from them. But like, they are forced into it. It's thrust upon them. Despite them being a victim, this is a real thing. I actually did a video on this expressing my utmost disgust and learning that this was an actual thing. But you'll have some of these same individuals who will try to force their beliefs on a woman that they don't even know into having a child when they know nothing about that woman or her character or whether or not she's even fit to be a parent. Again, ironically, in that video of the woman that I touched on, of the woman who did that to a minor who will probably be forced into paying child support when he becomes of age, like the many other cases where this happens to male children. This is a thing. It's a real thing. Look it up. She is allowed to keep her child. This is real. This actually, there's articles about it. This monster is allowed to keep the baby. I'm trying not to lose control because every time I think about it, I get mad. I imagine that had happened to my brothers or my father, or if I were a dude and that happened to me. What? The offender, you know what offender, not only is it an offender, but a minor. She offended a minor. This person is 31 and that boy was 13. She doesn't only not get jail time, but she's allowed to keep the child. My mind is blown. Do you think someone who preys on children is fit to be a parent? You don't see how skewed the society is when it comes to parenting? It seems as though people care more about people having children than caring about the children that are being born to these people. A lot of people I've spoken to that had kids only had them because they thought that's what was expected of them. My mother struggled with depression, and my father believed that having a child, me, would give her something to live for and help prevent her from having those recurrent morbid thoughts of wanting to end herself. That if she had someone or something to pour her love into, that would cure her of all the mental strain and trauma that she suffered throughout her entire life. While it did work for a little while, it didn't take. And as a result of the abuse she suffered from her mom, as I became a preteen and into my teenage years and throughout my life, I have suffered very similar abuse by her, someone who was obviously not fit to be a parent. She provided for me. Don't get me wrong. My mom broke her body to provide for me and make sure we didn't eat. But not just because you feed something and keep it alive means that you were doing the best for it. There are many people who feed their pets and keep them alive and they still abuse them. And does all of that play a part into why I don't want children? Of course. Oh, 100%. Is it not fair though to grant me the same level of autonomy and freedom of choice as any other adult human being when it comes to deciding what I want for my own life though? Why is it that women can make a choice of what job they want, what foods they like, what movies they like, what lifestyles they prefer, but yet, when it comes to kids, complete strangers think they have the right and justification to talk down to a woman about what her preference is or should be. And it's not just men doing it. You know, I'm saying most of the comments I see that are derogatory comments are usually from dudes, but it's women too. I always wonder why people are trying so hard to convince and encourage women to have children who don't want them.
Over her face how miserable she is because she doesn't have kids. It turns out having kids is really good for you. Now again, you shouldn't have kids because of your sense of subjective pleasure, but the reality is that being embedded in life, being embedded in time, being embedded in that chain of generations we talked about earlier, it's very good for you as a person. Otherwise, you end up as a dope on the Twitters, putting up videos about masturbating at 7 a.m. and eating edibles like Chelsea Handler. That's what you end up like.
Why would you want someone, an individual, to become a parent who has verbally stated that they don't want that? Why would you want someone to bring a precious life into this world that they express repeatedly they do not want? That's like being around someone who you really, 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 really love and forcing yourself around that person when they've repeatedly expressed to you that they don't like you and don't want you around them. I know it's a kind of different situation, but imagine it from the point of view of the person who doesn't want you around. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how many women change their minds, because that's the argument that some people use. If they don't know what they want and they change their mind later, good for them. Those people do not speak for all of us who make that choice. Do you know how many men, when they're younger, say they want to be police officers and firemen and the president, and then when they get older, they change their mind? However, no one at their young age, when they said that they wanted to be something, were told, you'll change your mind. To me, that's very patronizing. I understand that people come off as stupid a lot of the time. We humans can be. But I think we should give a little bit of leeway and have a little bit of faith in adults when they verbalize that they've made a choice. Just dismissing their choice due to your own need to exercise some form of self-righteousness over them is immoral and dehumanizing. It is quite the double standard when people who choose to become parents and who happily share that choice are celebrated and encouraged, while people who choose not to have children, verbalizing why they're happy in their choice, are spreading propaganda. I would argue the complete opposite. It is propaganda to try and tell everyone that they're fit to be parents. One of the reasons why society is suffering as much as it is right now, and why so many people of my generation are so unhinged, especially in the United States, is because they had parents that did not know how to parent or who were not fit to be parents. Change my mind. They had not the slightest inkling of how to raise a child, and so they essentially let the child raise themselves without any accountability, to the point where they now have become a menace to society, and they're trying to make the entire world fit their very narrow-minded viewpoint and intolerant narratives.
Here comes the screaming kid. Love to fly. It's gonna be my seatmate. Here he comes.
That ear-piercing scream is an unruly child on a transatlantic flight to New York. The passengers describe an 8-hour flight from hell with non-stop and nerve-jangling screaming and fussing. They even covered their ears to drown out the 3-year-old. His mom was overheard telling flight attendants he has behavioral problems. Passenger Shane Townley shot the video.
She kind of looked like she was used to it. He was climbing all over the chairs. He was just screaming, would not let up. He was running up and down the aisles. There was nothing she could do.
It is propaganda whenever you're trying to force anyone to do something or believe something that you want them to believe because you believe it. The very definition of propaganda is information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. Whether that be for people having children or not having children. If you're pushing this to the point of scorning or shaming someone for their choice or outlook, you are the one spreading propaganda. But someone just coming out and saying, hey, this is what my life is like, or this is why I chose this, that doesn't warrant that. That does not warrant that label. I've heard so many girls crying out of regret, not because they don't love their kids, but because if they could do it over again, they would not choose to. Everyone made it seem magical to have children, and they were gonna be this great thing, and it turned out to be some people's worst nightmare.
What's it like to regret having children? She responded with the following answer. I planned my pregnancy and I thought I desperately wanted a baby. Desperate enough that I married the first man who was interested in having a child with me, knowing in the back of my mind that I was making a bad decision, but thinking I was strong enough to do this. The day her daughter was born, the exact moment the tiny baby was placed in her arms, she said, I still feel like I made a mistake.
Damn, that's heavy.
Yeah, so she didn't hide her name in the post, and she was just openly talking about what she went through. And of course she got hate. Some people told her to commit to psychotherapy. Others said, take it from a child of an anxious, self-centered, narcissistic psychopath mother. Your daughter may seem unaffected by your bad choices, but trust me, she's been affected.
Therapist reacts. I love my kids, and I'm told I'm a pretty good dad, and sometimes I enjoy it, but most of the time it's just draining. I understand that there are people out there who enjoy spending time with kids, just like there are people who enjoy talking to strangers, and suffice it to say, I'm just not one of them.
And another reason why I actually feel like I regret being a mom, like I regret having children, is, my God, I lost my freedom. You all, I lost my freedom completely. Like, if you're a mom here, you can actually relate with what I'm talking about. The freedom is virtually gone. Like, sometimes I feel trapped. You know, what I mean by I lost my freedom? Right now, as my kids are, all of them are below 10, you understand? There are things I cannot do. There are places I cannot go to. There are times I cannot spend outside. Like the freedom to do things when I like, how I like, and whichever way I want to do it, you understand? It's not there anymore because I have to put them into consideration, you understand? These are tiny little humans, all dependent on me for survival. Me and my husband, you understand? For survival. Like, we have to be there to bathe them, we have to be there to feed them, we have to be there to make sure that they don't blind themselves, they don't cripple themselves.
For most people who have a baby, they're doing it because they want the fun part. They want the gaga goo goo, they want the this and this, that. They don't want the hard work responsibility. I mean, very few people I see are you know, and then they have kids, and then later on they're so, oh shit, this is too much work. I don't, you know. And even great parents, see, but even great parents, they don't want to speak on this. And that's why even great parents, they have wine night. They self-medicate. They have wine at night, they get drunk with their buddies, they have beer, or they don't do anything. They're completely dry, and they're so hard and rigid, their kids hate them. They resent them. They resent them. And their whole life, they go through this whole life where it's like they never really have a solid, good relationship with their parents.
Read you one of the posts. I regret having children. I have 2 of them, and the only reason why I had the second is purely so that they could play together instead of harassing me to play with them. Could it be that they love you and want your attention? But they just fight constantly. Most of the time, when they fight, I just leave them to fight it out, as I don't have the patience or energy to deal with it. I miss my freedom. I hate putting them to bed every night. It's such a chore. I yell at them too much. I hate it when I tell anyone about how I'm feeling and they just tell me I have depression. I don't fucking have depression. I'm perfectly happy when my kids are not around. Like when they get dropped off with their grandparents for a sleepover. I don't miss them. I hate playing with them. I would rather do anything else, like clean the house. I let them use the iPad as much as they want because it keeps them quiet and they don't bother me.
I have seen it firsthand. I have heard it from these women's mouths. Look how many news stories we get of women killing their children or putting them in the oven or driving their car into the ocean with them or having their children live in filth and squalor or not allowing the kids to see their father. It would have been very helpful had someone told them that they were not fit to be parents, but it's okay because it's their choice, right? A mentally inept person is completely okay to have children, and it's even encouraged a lot of the time. But someone who is completely mentally sound who makes a choice to not have kids is made to look as though they're insane or they don't have a brain enough to make their own decisions. Not everybody who chooses to not have children is an ultra-radical feminist. Just like not every man who chooses not to be a father is a selfish playboy dick. Children are a huge responsibility. Mind you, also, a lot of my childhood was taken away, not just because of my situation growing up in the atmosphere that I grew up in, but because I had to take care of my twin brothers. I have multiple animals even now, and between the vet bills and the food and inability to travel at whim, it's very taxing. A child would require 3 times more of the dedication for way longer. Not only that, but on my husband's side of the family, there are genetic health issues, and even though there are things that you could probably do to try and help keep those in control, it definitely would put our child at a huge disadvantage. And then after he gets a certain age, it's not like you can be, hey, eat this and eat that. Once he gets around his friends and go out into the world, he's gonna do or wanna do the same things everybody else is doing, but his body is going to be at a disadvantage. The other thing I think about is, aside from me knowing for definite that I don't want children, even though I love children, I'm very short. I'm 5'2". My husband is below average height for a male. His mother is 4 feet. If I have a boy child, if we have a boy child, I understand because of society's issues or ideas of the beauty standard. I'm not stupid. I hear what women say, and I see how men treat people like that. That would be putting my boy child at a huge disadvantage. And I have no way of knowing whether or not I'd have a boy or girl. With my husband being an INTJ and me being an INFP, both of us have the personalities that are very introspective and very quiet, and I don't like confrontation or overly socializing with people. And all of that would be needed once we have children. You have to go here with them. You have to go to this. You have to get them in. Just thinking about it stresses me the fuck out. Like, I don't even want to do that stuff on my own half the time. And while I don't disagree that if it really came down to it and there was no other choice and we had no birth control options, that we'd be okay parents, after talking about it at length with each other before we started dating, during us dating, because this is a conversation a lot of people don't have before they get married and they start dating. Like, as soon as, we were interested in each other and I made it known how I felt about him, and then he started chasing me, he started asking me a whole bunch of questions so we could know if our morals and our viewpoints aligned so we could work out long term. We talked about it. We talked about it at length, even during us dating. And then after we got married, we still talked about it. Both of us then decided every time that it's something we both definitely do not want because of all the things involved that would stress us out. We both come from an abusive background, and just like the abuse that my mom suffered carried on into her behavior in the way she raised me and my brothers, I don't trust that I wouldn't have those same issues when it came to raising my kids. I really don't. I have no way of knowing that. So putting together the health factors, the physicalities, our preferences, and lifestyle and personality, my husband and I, as adults, have made the decision to not have children. It is why the IUD that I have will stay there until I get old enough that I don't need it. For our personality types, one of our strengths is being able to see things long-term and not just in the moment. It is more selfish to bring a child into this world just because you want the child in this world without thinking whether or not you're the best thing for that child than it is for you to decide not to have a child when you know you don't want one. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have children just because they want to have children. After all, it is the norm to have the biological imperative to want to have children. There is nothing wrong with it, and it's natural. People like me are not the norm. And maybe, again, my case is probably different because I did basically raise my brothers. I already went through that stage of raising babies, taking care of newborns. And I will admit that because of where we are in civilization and society, call it what you will, maybe nature's way of preventing more overpopulation, we have the freedom of choice. It's a wonderful thing to have that. That's why it makes me mad why people say things along the lines of, we're oppressed and this and that and we can't do this. Really? Really? Okay. Go to the Middle East or some of those countries and then get back at me if you can even do that. And what is the point in having freedom of choice if you don't have the freedom to express it?
Chelsea Handler is acting like a child, right? Chelsea Handler is how old? She is currently 47 years of age. She's 47 years of age. She is living alone. She does not have any children. She is not married, from what I understand. And she looks really, really unhappy. She has about the same level of emotional maturity as your normal 17-year-old, which is to say not much. And yet she's putting herself out there, like, I don't have to call a babysitter. I can do whatever I want all day long. But are you doing whatever you want all day long? Or are you really doing nothing all day long and calling it whatever you want?
Also, when people say things along the line of, well, then what's the point if you don't have children? I think that's a very demeaning thing to say because there are actual women out there or couples who do want children and don't have the ability to have them. Men too. There's some men who their stuff just doesn't work. Their sperm doesn't work. You're essentially saying that the person has no purpose other than having children. What a horrible outlook to have when there is so much more to contributing to society and to what makes up an individual than just pumping out kids. There are so many people who are known in history for so many things. All the people who have achieved greatness and have revolutionized technology and the way we live are not known because they have kids. They're known for what they contribute to society and mankind. No woman or man that I know of in history that have achieved something so great and life-changing or world-changing has ever been referred to as or known worldwide because, oh, this person changed the world because they had a child. No, anybody can have a freaking child whose stuff works. Most of the time, you don't even know whether or not those famous people have children because it's never important to their achievements. Their achievements like creating electricity, the internet, video games, clothing, entertainment, art, factories, agriculture, etc. are what we know them for. And it's a legacy that they leave behind for all of mankind. So in all, everyone should have the right to make their own decisions without facing discrimination or ridicule. I don't know why, in a time where we're said to be so progressive, that we're so intolerant and so toxic towards each other. You have people on one side saying, don't do this because I believe this. I'm gonna dox you and hurt your feelings and threaten you because you're playing a game I don't agree with you playing because it helps someone that it doesn't really help, even though I'm buying lots of products from companies that probably have problematic views or individuals in them that have problematic views too. I'm a hypocrite. Or don't say what you want to say because I don't believe you have people out there that don't want you talking about certain things because they don't agree with you and want you to be deplatformed. There are religious people out there who you'll say you're an atheist and you're just sharing the fact that you're an atheist and why, and they'll tell you, well, don't talk about it, but you're allowed to preach your stuff. Like, it's just so amazing how people on every side will have an issue with someone else's stuff, and they can't just leave it at a disagreement. They have to be intolerant to the point of persecution. That's what I don't understand. Even the people who claim that they're being persecuted are now doing the persecuting to the very people who were allies with them. It's out of this world to me. Let people do what they're gonna do. You don't have to agree with them, but respect their choice. No, what they're doing isn't directly affecting you. It's not directly affecting you. You may believe it is, but trust me, it isn't. If that person's out of sight, out of mind, and nothing is happening to you as a result, they are not directly affecting you. So relax and keep your business to yourself. You can voice your opinion. Everyone is free to do that. You can say why. I mean, I'm saying you can say, like, I can control what you say. I can't. But it is a courtesy to respectfully disagree with certain things, like why you may think it's a nice thing to have kids, but if someone decides they don't want that, why is it skin off your bones? Why is your whole life triggered by this? Why do you feel the need to insult that person and demean them and tell them they're gonna die alone?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And everybody dies alone anyway. Nobody holds your hand during death. You make that journey all by yourself. So I don't even know why people say that. Ugh, it's so annoying. The world is so annoying sometimes. But even throughout all of that, I have to remind myself that there are beautiful things about the world. Everyone's not like that. There are people who go out of their way to really make the world a better place. And I think when your life is on the internet, you're just inundated with all the negativity of it that you forget to recognize the beauty of it and share that as well. And for the people out there who are legitimately good people and are trying to make the world a better place, I guess don't feel as though you're not making a difference, because you are. On an individual scale, you'd be surprised if all of us made a difference on an individual scale, how it would matter in the long run. And it's starting to change. I think what happens is this whole ordeal is quite cyclical in nature, but it does change because people are speaking to each other on an individual level. It all boils down to respecting each other and letting everyone live their life.
I invent a time machine, go back in time and kill Hitler.
Freeze, you bastard!
It's amazing what you can do when you have this much free time. And that's a day in the life of a childless woman.
Woo!